Welcome to Transformation of a Nation. I am yours truly, Dr. Rhonda Travitt, here in the house. Thank you for tuning in today on the first broadcast. I am so super excited that you chose to join us today. I have an awesome, phenomenal guest. Her name is Tamara Simmons. And let me tell you a little bit about her before we get into it. I only have 30 minutes. I want a couple of hours with her, but 30 minutes is all I get. So here we go. How are you today, Tamara? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Tamara is an internationally acclaimed CEO, producer, writer, talent director, and entrepreneur. One of the most sought after executive producers in the nation. Executive producer of Surviving R.Kelly docuseries has reached over 26.8 million viewers and over 20 million live streams since its debut. Featured among the top 50 influential women in the entertainment industry. That says a whole lot. And I said to her a little earlier, I said, she's so young and beautiful and so well accomplished. So I'm so excited about that. So, you're from Atlanta? Are you from Atlanta or no?
I'm originally from Tennessee, a small city. Originally from McMinnville, Tennessee, by the way of Murfreesboro. Everyone knows Nashville. So Murfreesboro is about 30 minutes from Nashville.
Okay, about 20 or 30 minutes from Nashville. Okay, I'm going to jump right in because of time. Now, how have you been coping with the COVID pandemic? 6 months into 2020, we're facing national pandemic. From your perspective in the industry, please tell me, what do you think will be changed or has anything changed?
Well, yeah, moving forward, especially the way that production is ran, there's a lot of precautions. I think we've received maybe like four different updates from production, such as like Lionsgate, all the way down to like Entertainment One. As far as like the precautions, you still have to be able to social distance. So the crew's not going to be as big. Um, I'm not in the scripted world, but I feel for them, those that do like movies and things like that and films, because I'm like, how do you do it? Because you have to have stunts and, just depending on the type of films that you do. So it really has affected a lot of my like producing partners. And as far as being on set, it's affected all of us. But I'm a developer, so I continue to develop shows and develop series. So through COVID, I've been working nonstop on developing shows and things like that.
That was going to be one of my questions because usually entrepreneurs and visionaries, even though life throws them lemon, they make lemonade. So tell me, what's your lemonade that came out of COVID?
Well, I'm usually traveling. I live in Atlanta, but I travel back and forth to LA to film, or I'll travel like to different parts of the world. And so this has allowed me to be able to like sit down and actually think about like, 2019 doing Surviving R.Kelly, because we kept winning awards, and then I flew all over the country talking about how the documentary was created and that sort of thing, and the importance of it and the impact of it, that I really didn't remember 2019 so when I sat down like during COVID, I was like, this is my first break since the middle of 2017. And literally, I couldn't tell you what I did in 2018. Only way that I can tell you what I accomplished in 2019 is from the nominations and the awards. But everything else is just like, I don't know. I was like, did I live in 2019?
Well, let me ask you something. I'm gonna move from COVID because I'm getting so many questions about your documentary. A lot of people are asking about your documentary. So, how did you first get informed and get the knowledge about R.Kelly to the place where you believed and that you wanted to make the difference? What was it that? How did you get informed?
Well, there was news conferences that were, press conferences the family, the Savage family, was talking about. I'm like, this can't be the same, story that's going on 10 years later, because I remember he was acquitted from his original charge back in 2008. And I'm like, this can't be going on. Like, this is crazy. 10 years, you know. But then as I continued to do my research, and I found articles in like the Washington Post and different interviews from different people, I was just like, I was like, this has to be some type of truth there, because these, it didn't seem like the women knew each other. So pretty much, just gathering information and talking to the women, I believed them when I knew that they didn't know each other, and they had a similar story. So I could tell that there was some type of system that was in place, for those type of women. There's a certain type that he was seeking out, whether they had an abusive past or something like that. He used that system to be able to manipulate over time.
Over time.
Mm-hmm.
What was it about that, if anything, that touched you personally? Was there anything about the women that you related to?
Well, I mean, I have a daughter, so some of the things, the women, they're just, now able to speak out, because there's power in numbers. So a lot of them didn't want to come forward, because they're like, how can I go against this person that the world loves, and I don't have enough money to fight him? But things happened to them when they were 17 and 18, and I have now a daughter. She's 19 years old. Yes, I'm old enough. But everybody's like, what? But I just thought about my daughter during that time, and I said, her mother, myself, I work in the entertainment industry, so this could easily happen to her, to where she goes with me to an event, or goes. I work with a lot of different celebrity talent, and she could just be with me, help me out, or whatever the case is, and she could easily get lured into this. So I just really was like, this is important, not only to help my daughter, but to help everyone's daughters, and then also the women that aren't with the R.Kelly, but with the R.Kelly type of man, that manipulates and things like that. This will let them know that it's not them, because I think a lot of these women thought, why is he doing this to me?
Mm.
And when they realize that that's just the way that he is, or he was, then they're like, okay, now they're like, okay, it wasn't me. It makes you feel like a little bit more secure within yourself, because the whole time you're thinking like it's something about you that makes this man do these things and that sort of thing.
Surviving R. Kelly. How did you come up with that title?
Oh,
What was it about that surviving? That was interesting for me.
yeah. So it was really the network and the production company, Buddha and Murray Productions, and Creative Inc. and Lifetime. Really, we really had a lot of names, but the similarity was all these women were survivors of this one man.
Okay. I can't imagine the mental weight that it took upon you,
Mm-hmm.
and even some of the backlash that you may have gotten because he was so popular. Did
Mm-hmm.
you receive hate mail? Were there threats? Were you even concerned for your safety? Because
Um,
yeah.
I think that during the time my adrenaline was just pumping, and I didn't care about a television show. I just wanted these women to be heard, because as a Black woman, our voices are not heard as much as our white counterparts. And so we had the Me Too movement, and we saw all these white women coming forward with these white men. But I wanted it to be known that this happens in our culture also. And when it does happen, it's not the Black woman's fault that it's happening to them. Because a lot of times we are like, well, why were you doing that? Why were you wearing that? And try to victim shame and things like that. So I think just going forward through it, I was just thinking about making sure that these women are heard and that they're believed, because a lot of them didn't feel that people were going to believe them. Like,
Hmm.
why would R.Kelly want you? And why would he not want you if he could lure you in? That's the thing. And then also, whenever I was working with the women, it wasn't easy for these women to come forward. And a lot of times they didn't want to, but I just had to explain to them, like, it's not necessarily just about you, but like I was saying, you're going to save a lot of women's lives. You're going to teach a lot of women, you're going to help girls understand that it's not okay to be sexually abused this way. in any type of relationship, or at all. So I think I didn't expect the outcome to be what it was. Of course, you have people that said, you're a Black woman trying to take a Black man down. Like, why would you do this type of thing? And I'm like, it doesn't matter that I'm a Black woman, and it's
Right.
not about me trying to take a Black man down. It's about me lifting my sisters' voices and letting it be known that these Black women, this happens to them as well. So I didn't look at it like taking a Black man down. I didn't care if he was white, green, purple, yellow. He just needed to stop what he was doing to Black women, to women, period, but especially to Black women. So I did, we did receive like a bomb threat, a gun
Wow.
at the screening. Um, but I mean, I have a God that I serve, so I had no fear, and I knew everything that I had. We had gathered. There were so many different facts. People can say these women are lying. They can poke holes in their stories and things like that. But there were so many facts that were laid out that we couldn't even put in the documentary. That's why we came out with part two. And still with part two, there's still more that you can make part three. It's that much.
Wow.
So if these, like, people were, would say these women are lying or whatever the case may be, how can you have all of this information, about this one person to these individual people that he, did this to? How can you have all that information and then they're lying? Because, we had a robust like legal team, and when I say the attorneys got on my nerves, they got on my nerves. But I'm glad they got on my nerves, and I understood why at the end, because I'm like, I already gave this to you guys. Here's the facts that are laid out. Here's the corroboration. You had to have evidence to corroborate with each thing that you were saying. So I need to make sure, I wanted to make sure that, we had all the information laid out. And so when it came time, that, of course, we received legal threats and everything else, we were okay because we had a legal team for our legal team. That's how buttoned up it was.
Did you feel that he would, eventually go to jail? Did you ever feel that he was too powerful?
Mm-mm. I literally felt in my spirit, I was like, this is it. I kept saying this is it from the very beginning. Whenever I was like, it's over. I was like, he will not be able to hurt anybody else. I was like, this is it. I didn't know what that would consist of, but as I kept continue to move forward, when we get back to like when you asked me about the mental health, literally I feel that it was just God pushing me through the whole entire time. I know it was, because I look back and I'm like, I don't even know how I was able to stay on the phone with some of the women, and even sitting in their interviews, like afterwards, I mean, it's over, like, waterworks, like tears, because I'm an empath. So I would feel things that, weren't being said, and you can feel emotions, and you're in a room with someone and they're trying to be calm as they're doing an interview, but you're asking them these detailed questions that trigger the things that were happening to them. And so it's like you're bringing that pain back up, a pain that they buried, because a lot of them, like I said, didn't have therapists, and they didn't have therapy.
Wow. Did you ever feel the parents were somewhat at fault in some way? Where were they? As so many people question that. Where were the parents and the young?
I don't think anyone's a perfect parent. And I think that, like, I have a daughter, I could tell her, hey, I don't want you to do this, or whatever the case may be. She may beg me and say, Mom, please just let me do it. I may say, hey, okay, I'm gonna let you do it, but I'll warn you, like, if, you know, and in those cases, the parents, I feel that they were manipulated by the situation, because they thought that this person was actually going to be able to help their daughter's career. And I think that they were monitoring them enough to think that this wouldn't happen.
Who was your greatest opposition? What was your greatest opposition? And did you have people in the industry to turn on you because you chose to do this?
Um, I mean, I didn't really feel that I had any opposition. I'm sure I did, but I mean, God covered me, so I didn't really feel it. And as far as people in the industry turning, no, people were, it was hard for me. It's still hard for me to receive awards for something that it's not, that wasn't my motive, and that wasn't what I was in it for is to, oh, this is going to be Emmy nominated. Didn't even know what Emmy, how you even qualify. I didn't know about any of those things. So I believe that, God did what he had to do because he knew it was time for it to be done. And I wasn't a person that was concerned about any of the materialistic things that came with it.
I listen to you and you have great faith. Great faith.
Mm-hmm.
So your faith, tell me about your faith. May I ask?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Well, I've always been this person. I was raised in Tennessee, which is like the Bible Belt. So went to church on Sundays, Wednesdays, revivals, things like that, with my grandmother because my grandparents raised me. But as I got older, I wanted my own individual relationship with God. So when I turned, I think it was like 18, it just felt that there was like a burning inside of me. And I was like, there's more to God than just going to church on Sundays. There's more to him than just reading the Bible. Like I want to know him for myself. So it wasn't really until I got pregnant with my daughter. I was a sophomore in college and I was like, I really need to know God for myself because he's going to have to help me with this child. I don't know what I'm doing, and so that's when my walk really began. It was during my pregnancy. I started going to like a smaller devotional in-home Bible study that I could like really ask questions and understand because I wanted to know. And that's when like I was able to receive the Holy Spirit and
wow.
and understand how God moves and who God is and who he's called me to be. And it was over time, like maybe it took me maybe 5 years to accept the gifts that I do have. And right before I moved from Tennessee to Atlanta, I was church hopping because I was trying to get rid of this gift that he gave me, which I can have the gift of like a crazy discernment. So I think that's why people tell me what they're going through and what they've been through, because whatever God put in me pulls it out of people without me having to ask. But it got really strong. My gift got really strong to where I could walk by you and tell you like, oh, you have the spirit of lust on you, or you have the spirit of fornication, or you're struggling with your homosexuality. Like it would be like that. And I'm not a judgmental person. So at first I thought I was just judging people. And I had to understand that it was a gift. So when I would go to church, the pastors would always say, hey, can you come here? And I'm like, me? It could be my first time or whatever. They say, you have a really strong gift for leaders, like, and just, prophesy to me. So I said, okay, God, I'm going to keep on going to church, but I'm going to sit in the back this time because I'm tired of being called to the front. And so I used to sit in the back pew. And I remember I went to a revival with one of my friends. I'd never been there before. It was like, I think the pastor's anniversary at the same time. So I saw a banner with the pastor and his wife on it. And their whole marriage flashed before me.
Wow.
And at the end of that service, the pastor called me up. I'm like, and I'm on the last pew. So he's like, ma'am, can you come here? And I'm like looking back. No, there's nobody behind me. Oh my gosh, I can't.
Not again.
I was like, I can't sit anywhere. And so yeah, I just started developing and listening to God and understanding that it wasn't, what was driving me was the Holy Spirit, basically.
Wow, that's beautiful. How has that affected you in the industry, and how have you stayed pure?
Oh my gosh, I mean, this industry, like, it's been hard. It gets harder. I guess the more success you have, you think that it would be easier, but it actually is harder because you have so much thrown at you. So like in the very beginning, I was like, I had to be a tough, woman because first of all, I'm a woman, I'm not about to sleep my way to the top. I already have morals and, establish myself that way. And so, it was hard for me because I had to work for everything that I earned. It wasn't given to me. I didn't have mentors to mentor me or anything like that. I didn't even know who to ask to mentor me.
Wow.
And so I just really had to rely literally on God. And sometimes I'd say, you gave me this vision. You better figure it out because I don't know what's going on. So my conversations with God would be probably, some people would probably say they're disrespectful because I tell God, no, I'm not doing that. And he says, yes, you are. And I say, no, I'm not. And then I end up doing what he wants me to do. And he's like, I told you so. And I'm like, okay, whatever. He goes through this whole cycle over and over and over again. He's like, don't you know by now I'm going to win? I'm like, I don't know. I'm still going to give you a fight. So, but as I, gained more and more success and became acclimated with like different like celebrities and people in the industry, I realized how different I really was. I'm like, I don't really fit in here, but like, why do they want me here? But I realized that God assigned certain people to me. And that's when I started understanding like, okay, this is my purpose in this person's life. And it kind of would allow me to be able to stay on track without falling off. Because it's very easy. It's very easy to like have an ego. And that's one thing I asked God. I said, I don't want to be famous. I said, I just want to work and I want to do a good job and I want you to tell me what you want me to do and I want to be a living vessel for you, but I don't even want people to know that I have God in me. I don't want to quote scriptures. I want them to see my life. I want them to see your light and I want them to see you. I don't even want to be seen. So that's why it was hard for me to really accept awards because I was like, this isn't mine. Like, this is God's. But he was like, you're my steward there on earth and you must receive it. Because there's people that are watching you that are going to understand that there's a light inside of you and it's not you that's driving you, that it's me. I said, okay, I get it. Just use me.
So you are a beautiful testament to the glory of God. I know that we're supposed to be talking about this and that, but God leads the direction of this podcast. So that is everybody is so excited that you're talking about God because the industry has such a bad name. Do you feel like that was a part of your God-given assignment?
Listen, I didn't even have cable TV growing up. Okay, so all I knew about was Oprah came on Channel 4, the news came on Channel 5. My grandparents raised me. So Andy Griffith was on like the W.
Yes.
Then we got the CWs. I didn't know nothing about Lifetime. At the time Netflix wasn't around, but I didn't know anything about television. Never went to like film school. I feel really embarrassed when I say that because I'm like, people are like, how did you do a documentary? You didn't even go to school. But I mean, I guess when God calls you, it don't matter. It don't matter about the degree. But I was actually
that's amazing.
I was trying to pitch my talent because I have a talent agency. So I was trying to pitch my talent for television shows. And this lady was like, hey, I heard about you. I heard you're a publicist and you do certain things in hip hop. And I'm like, I do marketing and branding like that, And then she said, well, we want to interview you for a show. And I was like, okay. But I was like, oh yeah, I can connect with her and then I can pitch my talent, so because she's a casting director. So I was like, oh, this is a good relationship. Let me pretend like I want to do this show. When I really don't. So I said, Lord, please let me do a horrible job. Like, people think that you just pray that God, please bless me, give me money. No, I'm like, Lord, please let me do a horrible job. Please don't let them like me. I just want this connection, And so I did the Skype interview and went through the casting and they were like, oh my God, we love you. We love your personality. We want you on the show. And I'm like, my heart is pounding. And I'm like, the devil set me up. I was like, this was not God. This was the devil. Like, and so the lady's like, yeah, we're going to tell you about the next steps, blah, blah, blah. She's like, but in the meantime, you seem so resourceful. Like, could you put me in contact with Jagged Edge? And I'm like, can you give me 24 hours? Like, didn't know Jagged Edge or Jagged Edge's managers or anything, but I said I was going to figure it out. So really, it was that lady. Fast forward a few months later, I said, hey, I got this talent that I think it would be great for like a television show. It's T.I. and Tiny's daughters, Anique and Miss Deb and Waka Flocka's son, brother, Brandon. I was like, they're doing this little podcast, like basically went through my whole pitch. And she said, hey, let me put you in contact with Entertainment One Productions. And maybe that's somebody
just like that. You just said it and it just starts rolling.
Yeah. I'm telling you. And so then, and then she put me in contact with Entertainment One. Long story short, that's how I helped franchise Growing Up Hip Hop, and that was my first television show. By me pitching the talent and getting like Jermaine Dupri and his daughter signed on, and Ayana and Brandon and Miss Deb and all that stuff. So that's how I really got into TV because God pushed me there. But the lady called me back like a month after she connected me with the Entertainment One and said, I'm so sorry, Tamara, I have bad news. The network really wants to change directions. They don't want to do this show anymore. And I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord. I was like, it's okay. Something else better is going to come. Knowing I was like elated. And God literally was like, see, I told you. If you just listen to me and you just move like I move. Because I was whining at first. I'm like, God, why did they like me? I prayed and I told you I didn't want them to like me. So they ended up not doing the show because they didn't want to like release certain secrets that publicists do and all this kind of stuff. So
Let me ask you something. Raising Black children. Let me get to what's been happening recently in America and here in Atlanta since you're here. How have you explained the racial disparities and the injustices are, keeping your kids, and even how are you dealing with that mentally, even with COVID as well as this
yeah.
system?
So I was like, well, this is like a pandemic on top of a pandemic, like, and so it goes back to saying like, how much can we bear? So God's like, a lot, apparently, but when COVID happened and, my son, my daughter is in college, but my son is 9 and he's in the 3rd grade. So I had to become his homeschool teacher, but I had practice with my daughter because I homeschooled her from 8th grade until like the last semester of her junior year. And then she went to public high school for like a year just so she can get the whole prom experience, all that stuff. So, but my son is totally different than my daughter. So almost like, I was like, when are y'all going back to school? Like COVID needs to be over, because because I'm in the middle of like a work month, my schedule was already still going. And some of the productions were like, hey, we're still going to be going. We're just going to be cautious, et cetera, et cetera. So I was still doing my normal like day-to-day job on top of having to make sure my son got online and, made sure he had his adequate time that I needed to dedicate to him. So for about 2 weeks, I was struggling. I was like, this is not it.
So what about George Floyd, Rashad? How have you?
Yeah, so I did a few protests. The first one that I did was for George Floyd. It was like that weekend whenever it happened, and we went out and protested. Well, I did by myself, but I said I would not do that again. Because I just went out there and I was like, yes, I'm gonna like make sure that my voice matters, blah 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 blah. And then I didn't realize, everybody starts running, like you're supposed to run the opposite direction or something. So something happened and people started running. So I started running with them and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just running. So I said, you always have to have a buddy or a group of people that you go with. And so now when I go out and protest, I actually go with a group of people. So I'm not by myself. But that first time I came home and I had called, I think Shatana saw it on my Facebook or somewhere. She was like, Tamra Simmons, where are you? And I'm like, I'm home. And she was like, no, where have you been?
Superwoman out there by yourself protesting.
Yeah. But I joined other people. I didn't know them, but we were all there for the same purpose. But yeah, and my son was like, Mom, what is that? What does that mean? So I'd explain, what happened while we're fighting for justice and to make sure that Black Lives Matter and that sort of thing. And he's just like overwhelmed because he can't understand it, because he's in the 3rd grade and he doesn't really see color like that. He doesn't understand.
I have a few seconds left. What's next for Tamara Simmons, and what projects are you working on that we can look forward to seeing you?
Well, I'm working on a social justice project that I just sold. So that's really going to be focused on Black Lives Matter in Atlanta. It's a lot of different mothers who have experienced losing their sons. So you'll see that coming soon. Um, Hopefully by before the end of the year, because right now I believe that we're in a movement in a way to where we have America's attention. And I believe that the media and the television platforms help raise awareness of what's actually going on every single day, and how these mothers and people have to live with their lives after their loved one has been brutally killed, but we're still screaming their names and still screaming for justice.
Thank you so much. Our time is up. You have been an absolute delight. It was God ordained for you to be the first guest on here. You blessed us so much. Everybody is like, yeah, Tamara, more questions, more questions. So please, I pray that you would come back again. You're such an
Oh, thank
inspiration.
you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone. And hopefully I can watch this and I won't be like, oh my gosh, what happened? Why did I say
No, you did an excellent job. We thank you so much. Thanks everyone for tuning in to Transformation of a Nation. We had Tamara Simmons today, and she is truly transforming a nation and nations. She's not only local and national, but she is internationally known, making changes and making moves. And that's what transformation of a nation is about. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thank you so much, Tamara.
thank you?
Peace.
Bye bye.